Righty. Sorry, just waiting on the tractor to get out of frickin' down the track a bit so it's not so noisy. So welcome back to NZ Mopo Outlaw Kustoms. So, as you can probably guess, it's the fuel tank. Left my fucking tripod at home, my little one with the bracket which goes on my big one. So, just got it sitting on the shelf today. In the meantime. So, got to look at the fuel tank. That's probably one of the next things to get off the list, if you know what I mean. And at least get to a point where we got to either wait on something to be made or whatever. So I know I'm going to open it up. Now it's pretty safe to work on. It probably hasn't had fuel in it for 40 years. So it's plenty safe to work on. So I think what I'm going to have to do, I'll just clean the shit off the outside of it roughly, with the wire brush obviously. We will give it a proper clean up before we obviously paint it, but I think at this point now, that's about as far as I'm going to take it until I get to the point where I know I'm ready to at least put it back together, or if it's beyond repair, if you know what I mean. I don't know if it still holds fuel. If I put all the friggin' plugs and everything back in it, whether it would still hold fuel. I think it possibly would, looking at it, but I don't know. But it's actually got a loose it's got a baffle inside it, and it's rattling around inside it. So obviously that's come loose at some point, and it's full of crud. So the ends, I think, should be soldered on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the end off, at least one end off, if not both, because everything is soldered on. So if I pull it off, get it all cleaned up, straightened up and whatever, we can take it to Radiator Man once we get it fixed and sorted, and I can get him to put all those pieces back on it, and I can give him the fittings and he can pressure test it for us. At least, like I could probably do it too, but I haven't had a lot of experience with soldering, off, little bits and pieces, but I wouldn't, well, I probably could, I could have a go, you know what I mean, but it's sometimes it's easier to give it to somebody that's an expert that can get it done in one hit, and knows what to do if there is a pinhole, really easy. Like that little patch I soldered on and all that sort of stuff on those headlights when I was repairing them. That's something simple. It doesn't have to be particularly good, as long as the patch stays there and and stops it from cracking, lots of stuff. But this is a bit more different. It's got to hold fuel, so it needs to be right. But if we can salvage this tank, it's got a couple of ugly dents in it. So if I get the end off, I can bash them out, I can panel beat them out and whatever. And at some point in the next, probably tomorrow, I might start attacking those other trim bits again too. I'll bounce between the two probably. It just depends. Like if I get really going on this, it depends. Like I might get through this today and then get the end off it, get it soldered, get it bashed out and whatever, and then get it cleaned up. And I mightn't be able to go any further with it until we can get it back together, if you know what I mean. I'm going to have to try and, I don't know whether we need to paint something on the inside of it. I suppose it depends on how well it cleans up on the inside. If we can get it really clean, and all that sorts of things, and do a little bit of research. I know they have I think it's is it a phosphorus coating on the insides of tanks? I think that's what they do to them, like when they're new, when they're like steel tanks, they coat them in, it's like goes through a wash so that shiny steel doesn't rust, if you know what I mean. It's like a phosphorus coating, and then obviously over time and with moisture and shit, that coat finally dissolves, and then that's when they start rusting out, 30, 40 years later or whatever. Or if there's a lot of crack, it ends up floating around the tank, or at some point shit, and it makes, you get dirty crap in the fuel, and it creates rust spots and whatever. So that's how that sort of starts. I think it's phosphorus coating. I think that's what it is. I'm not sure. You correct me if I'm wrong. Take it off a minute. Yeah, so I think that's what the mission is today. We'll get an end off it, or both ends off it, give it a clean out, check, see what the condition of the inside of the steel's like. If it's really bad, we'll just get another tank re-rolled. Hopefully the ends are okay. Worst comes to worst, we'll have to get them remade too. I don't have a bead roller, so I can't really make them very successfully. I probably could, but it's very awkward when you're trying to do that. If you've got a bead roller, you can get it in and you can pull it in and you can shrink it, and a shrinker stretch would be good too, because I imagine that those discs probably come up around it, and then it probably comes over like that and then kicks up. It's probably got like a little turnout, so it comes right over and then kicks up, so it's like, you know, looks a little like a mushroom, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm gathering that's what they look like. We'll find out when we pull them off in a minute. So yeah, that's the plan for today. At least get that opened up, see what we're dealing with, and then we'll go from there. If it's too rotten, we'll just have to get another tank made and just get all those pieces soldered back on. I assume they might be riveted and soldered by the looks of it. So yeah, but hopefully we can get it cleaned up, whatever, get it all treated on the inside, and we might better just fill the odd hole. If there's a couple of minor holes in it or something like that, we might better just get them soldered up and really they won't leak, you know, and then maybe recoat it with something. I know there's some different paint products. There's a fuel tank kit that you can buy offline. There's probably other ones, but it's KB fuel tank thing. You can get them for bikes and cars. I bought one for the Dodge when I was in Australia, but I never got to use it because it was quite scaly inside. It was quite bad, but it wasn't rotten. It just needed a bloody good clean-up, and I bought a kit to put through that tank, but I never got to use it. So yeah, I know those kits are available. So like if it did need something on the inside, a bit more to seal it up, well, we could do that too. But I think we'll just crank up the gas torch and see if we can get it off. I think that's the next step. I'll quickly show you over these other pieces. I'll quickly take you over here and just run you past these things again. So I think what I'm going to do here is with some of these handmade pieces, I think I'm going to probably just give these a light scuff, and then I might smear a little bit of glazing putty on the worst spots. They're a wee bit ripply. They are going to be flat or satin, so they're not going to show real bad, but some of the worst spots, if you can see, they're a little bit ripply. I'm going to smear a little bit of glazing putty on there, and hopefully when I sand them back, because I'll probably use, I've got one of those rolls, I'll probably use that to sand it back and just see if we can get a pretty good, I'm not worried if they're not dead perfect, but as long as we can get it so you can see like some of the marks. We get rid of the worst of those, and then with the satin and the wood grain effects and everything, it'll hide a lot. It'd be nice if they were a bit better, but because I had to reshape them and fix them and whatever, because they weren't terribly good and they were very ununiform, they were very wavy down there, whereas they're quite even now for what they were. But yeah, I still need a little bit of work, but I think a little bit of glazing putty on them in the worst areas, and we'll just rub it back and smooth them out, and yeah, get them pretty good. I might even put a throw bit on this as well. but like this and this factory one and the dash and probably even this, with a rub back they'll be fine. There's a few little marks and dents in this, but it's pretty much factory. If there's a couple bad ones, I'll throw a little bit in that too, but by the time we give them a good rub back, and we might have to just give them blow another light coat of primer over them before we start doing the wood grain stuff. But they need another, like, I could probably sand them now, but I'll leave them to probably tomorrow or later today. If I run out of crap to do here, we'll go back over there. Because, yeah, I want parts back so I can get some of these other pieces cleaned up. Because I'd like to strip that diff down, but I don't want, because I'll strip it down on that table, and I don't want to move that gearbox stuff until I've got it back together, because I'll re-clean everything, and then once we get all the other parts, and then we can just put it back together and be done with the bloody thing. Because it's basically, all those bits are ready to go, apart from they just need another clean out, because there's so much dirt and dust and shit been floating around here. But yeah, it's kind of ready to go, if you know what I mean. Within reason, obviously. But yeah, we'll do this. Because I could just grind around the edge, but then you'd never get it back on. And I just don't know if I'm going to ever get that peeled over there, if you know what I mean. Get them to peel it over. I'm going to destroy it, aren't I? Let me think about this for a minute. Yeah, it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was just going to be able to heat that up and just pull the end out of it, but no, it's been folded over. This has got the kick up, and then that's been rolled up. Once this has been made, this has been rolled onto it. Once everything else has been put onto it, and that's probably been put on last. So yeah. Yes. What do you think about it? I'll see if I can get hold of Arco and just see what he would do, maybe. Righty, so I managed to get an end off. I had to just heat it up and pry it off with the gas. So I'll straighten it all up and clean it all up. And obviously we'll put it back on. I have to do both ends because this is loose in there. That's loose. So I think what we'll do is I'll just sweat them out, get them out so I can get in there, clean it right up properly from one end to the other, put it, wire brush and everything through it from both ends, get it all really cleaned up, make sure it's right, and obviously bang all the dents out of it, make sure the edge is all nice and straight. That's actually rotted through, so that's buggered. Alright, well, it's probably not worth going any further then. Didn't realise they were broken off. Right, so yeah, doesn't hold water anymore, doesn't hold fuel anymore. We'll have a look, see how bad it is. I might be able to repair it, but yeah, it's going to take a bit of, I might be able to just make a piece and fix that. We'll see how bad the rest of it is. I'll get it all apart, but that is right at the bottom, where it is probably the most rusty. I might be able to repair that and put a patch in there maybe. We'll see how we get on. Worst comes to worst, we'll just make a new one. You know, and we can take all the old pieces off these and clean them all up and put them back on, if you know what I mean. So yeah, we'll keep going. We'll get this end off and we'll assess how bad it is and what we need to do to either repair a few spots or whether we just make a nice new fresh one and clean all these pieces up and put them back on again. But we'll carry on. Right, let's see if we get the other end off it. Try and clean it all up and see how we get on. And worst comes to worst, we'll just have to put a patch in here. And if I can get it sealed up good enough, we'll be right. We'll have a bloody good freaking clean up. We'll knock some dents out. And yeah, we'll go from there, I guess. Go from there, I guess. I'll give you a quick look-see in there. So, I'll give you a quick look in there. You can probably guess by looking at the rest of it. Right. So as you can see, like it's bad, but it's like for 100 years old, like it's survived pretty freaking well. Like I thought it might have been worse. But if we can repair that, if we can cut a piece out and put a new piece of steel in there and get it to seal, that's where a bloody TIG would be handy, but I'll do my best with the MIG. And as long as this end isn't rotted through, and it's not rotted through anywhere else, we'll be right. But yeah, we'll get in there with a wire brush for a start off anyway. Give it a bloody good clean up. Have to have a bloody good look around these pieces. May have to take these off. See how we get on. Actually, that might be just, is that riveted or is it? Yeah, it is riveted. But we could always re-rivet these back on if we have to. I'm more thinking about the drain one. The rest I'm not probably too worried about. They'll clean up, I think, because they're sort of out of that bottom zone. But down here, I might see if I can get that loose. I'll plug it itself anyway before I go too much further. At least then we can get in there. Like I've got die grinders and all sorts of shit that I can get in there with anyway, so more brushes. As long as we can get it clean and it's sealed, well, that's the main thing. So we'll carry on and clean this bad boy up. Righty, I think we might be making a new tank. I've just run over this area here. You can see how badly pitted it is, and this is, you know, up the sidewalls of it. It's not even near the bottom. And I've found a hole in here. It's rotted through on this in 2 or 3 spots. So, you know, if it's rotted through there, like it's bound to be rotted through in places on here, you know, and wherever else, you know, like it's pretty, like I said, like it's not that bad for the 100 years old, but how many holes are we chasing? So I think we might be better off just to start, get a new tank rolled. I'll get these pieces off, get them sweated off, get them off. And if I have to remake them, we'll have to remake them. But at least I can get them off. We can get this away, get it made. Probably may as well get some new ends made. I'll clean these up. These might be about to be used. These will be about to be used. I can just clean them up. The ends may be alright, but it's probably just as easy to get some new fresh ones made as well. I'll see. I'll clean them up. I'll put them in the sandblasting cabinet and straighten all the edges up and whatever. See what they look like. Yeah, we just might have to get another tank made, I think. If it was just that patch, I think it'd be right, but it's pretty, like when it's really pitted like that up the walls, you know, it's probably not going to last that long, if you know what I mean, even if you did get it right. Just, yeah, like there's even a hole, I can see a hole down here that was soldered on. There's a hole in here somewhere, I think. It's either a hole or solder, one of the two. But there's a hole there. You know, once I start cleaning it up, how many more holes are in it. I'll go a little bit further with cleaning. I'll just run across this piece, across the bottom, and just see what it's like. But I think we might be just making a new one. At least so we know it's fine. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. But I think it might be a new one. Right, that's kind of the worst of the damage out of it. We can possibly make it better later on if we need to, if we end up using it. I just wanted to get it to a reasonable degree. It is quite pitted, but yeah, I don't know. I don't want it to break through in some of these thin spots, because it is pitted, quite pitted in places. It's not as pitted across the bottom as I thought it might have been, which is weird. Unless it's had moisture sitting in it when it's been lying around in a shed or something like that, and it's pitted in different places. It is a bit pitted around here. Could be worse. Would it make it look a new one or not? But it's going to need treated or something, for sure. For sure. Bring it in. I'm not quite sure if you can see that or not. Yeah, you can, if I get the light right. So it's quite pitted. It's not. I don't think it's any rotten anywhere else except for there. And that cap thing with the drain plug in, it's got a couple of holes in it. But I don't think there's any other holes. I'll have to like really triple check. But and I'm not sure what the seams like either, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's in two minds, you know, like it's because it's pitted, it's only going to last so long. And if you make a new one, well, you know it's going to last for, in theory, as long as the car has lasted now, if you know what I mean. I just hate to get it all cleaned up, painted and fixed, and then a year down the later it's got a hole in it. I might run it past the old man and see what he thinks, since he restored a lot of trucks. Well, that's probably not bad to put a patch in. It's nice and easy to work on. It's just a matter of making that shape and then bending it up and then welding in there, and it's reasonably thick steel. Like, it's not as though it's real light gauge or anything like that. It will take, you know, that panel steel that I've got around there. As reasonable thickness, it should be a pretty good match. And it's not as though you're putting a massive patch in it. We'll only, you know, I'll probably have to cut it out to you. I don't know. We'll have to cut it out to you. We'll have to come back up here somewhere. Make a bit of a, you know, up around here probably, because there's a bit holdy here. So I may as well come on another inch or so past it. And same down here to get to good solid. But it's not that bad. Like, you mightn't have to put that big a patch in it, if you know what I mean. I'll just clean it back till it's decent, and then welding it in there. But yeah, I might run it past Dad and just see what he thinks. And whatever. I might run the die grinders with those wire brushes down in these holes here, and in that, and then that with a fucking stupid clamp in there again. Keep rolling around on me. And in there, give that all a clean up. So it's quite badly pitted in around that too. Get the light right. So yeah, it's one of those. It's 1.5 dozen. You know, the other thing. You know, do you repair it, or do you just make a bloody new one? and be done with it. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mightn't go too much further. I might clean those baffles and stuff up and the end plates up. Just to see what they're like. Like they're reusable in a new one, you know. But I might clean these up and just see how bad maybe these are too. Alrighty, so about to go for lunch. I've just given these a rough blow over to have a bit of a look. So that's got some holes in it. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's worth making a new one, to be honest. Well, I can clean these up better, and they can probably reuse those. I'm guessing. I just actually changed the film in here. I think that's the third one from new. Yeah, I think that's the third one. It was getting, the other one was starting to get holes in it, so ripped it off and replaced it. The other one's down there. Ripped it off, gave the plastic a polish up before I, whatever. So yeah, you can see it's starting to get the old holes in her. That was, she was past it. But I normally give it a really good wipe down every now and again, and just get some car polish and just polish it up, buff it up again, just to try and keep it as clean as possible. Otherwise it get really bloody hard to look through. If this got really scratched, like, you probably could go through different grades of paper and finish up with 3000, then buff it up, and it would probably be fine. Or just put a new piece of plastic in it or whatever. But yeah, that's I just normally actually, because of these 3000 pads are really got a foam thing on it, I actually just run over it both sides with that. Put a wee bit of water on, wee bit of soapy water on there to run over it both sides when I had all the crap off it after I cleaned the worst of the shit off the brake clean, and then just gave it a quick buff up by hand with that stuff just to bring it back up. That's fine. I'll just flip the light on, like it's dirty now, but because I've been using it. But just a little tip, if you don't do it, well, you can see how dirty that is, but it's still, if I give this a quick wipe, and obviously because I've been using it, this is going to be a little bit scratched now, but you can see how clean that is, how clear that is. Look through, and I've been using that pretty much solid for the last 13 months, so I wouldn't say every day, but a fair chunk of them. So yeah, just give it a quick buff up, and because it does get very gritty and dirty on here too, so it gets very scratched. That's why I run over it with that little pad. I haven't done before, but I've given it a polish, but I just run over that. Once I gave it a bit of a wipe down, threw some soapy water on, just run over with that 3000 pad on the DA, and then just gave it a quick polish up, and it's quite nice again. So, just a little tip for you. Alrighty, I guess better give you an update. This is fully stripped. I think we're just going to make a new one, new tank. So I've got all the bits off. I'm just trying to clean them all up, and I'm numbered all these pieces because they are all different. I'm just trying to get the frickin' rivets out of them. This one here wasn't so bad though. I actually managed to knock them out as it was coming out. A lot of these other ones sort of stayed in there. Now I think these are all brass. I thought they might have been steel or something for a start off, but no, they're all brass. And I think they're aluminium rivets, but I'm not 100% sure on there. They might be steel. They could be steel. And I'm just trying to get them out of here because they wouldn't come out. One came out when I was pulling it off, and the other ones I'm going to have to, I sort of ground them down thinking I might be able to punch them out, but I'm going to have to drill them out by the looks of it. This I have had a little hole in it, so I've repaired that. This is steel, I think, and brass. It welded, so I had like a just little pinhole in there. And we'll just sweat a bit of solder into there and just hopefully it doesn't leak. So yeah, I'm just in the midst of trying to clean all these pieces up. It's a filler neck. I've sandblasted some of the stuff. I'll give it a bit more of a sandblast, and then I'll probably even wire wheel a lot of the stuff to really clean it up. But yeah, so just having fun trying to get all these old rivets out that held everything on. And then yeah, we'll just get another tank rolled and wet, some new ends made. Might better use these. I'll see how good I can get them cleaned up. So yeah, we'll just try and get all the shit out of these so I can put them back on. I think it might be, they must be steel rivets because I've taken a bit of drilling out. I thought they were actually aluminium or something like that for startup, but they might be just steel. Yeah, probably are. But yeah, they had like quite a big sort of head on them, and then they must have poked through and just hammered them down, I guess. And then done all the rest afterwards, so it'll be interesting to try and work out how we're going to reattach all that stuff. And then seal it all up. But yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there, so we'll get a new tank made next week sometime, and we'll drop it in the ends and get them to make a new tank, and maybe they might cut the holes in the right places too. I'm not so worried about. Well, if they can drill the holes in the right places, it'll be handy before they roll it up. But yeah, see how we get on, I guess. But yeah, I'll carry on trying to get all these bloody bits out of here. Real pain in the ass, actually. I thought they might have just punched out, but not really. But I'll keep playing and try and get these cleaned up before I go home. Otherwise, we'll be doing it tomorrow. There you go, guys. So welcome back again. So this morning, I'm going to start sanding this stuff and get some glazing putty on them, and the ones that need it. That one there is probably not too bad. Hopefully I can get away with just a sand on that one, but there's a few that are a wee bit ripply. You know, they're not bad, but I just want to try and make them a little bit better, so when we get the wood grain and all that sort of stuff on, they look nice. As you probably know from the footage, it was probably only a few seconds ago, but yeah, that tank's not very good. You know, I was going to do some sandblasting and some last final pieces last night, but I pulled the sleeve out of the cabinet, so the last probably half an hour I spent fixing that. So I pulled that sleeve out. Well, hold on. Yeah, I pulled that sleeve out when I put my hand in there. It's probably been quite a few months since I've done that. So, because it's such a prick of a thing to get into, I actually need to do that one too. It's about to come off too. I pulled the glass out because it was easier to get in there, to put it back on. And while I was at it, I put that light in there permanently. I used to have it hooked over. I just had the bracket hooked over that light, because that one's absolutely freaking useless. That was the original one, and it was after about a couple of days of using it, and it was just like, it was so freaking dark in there, it was hopeless to see. So yeah, put that LED light in there, and it works great. At some point I would like to try and put the cable through a better place, but because it's got a normal plug on it, I've just poked it out the vent hole. So yeah, I was going to clean these up a bit more, but and a couple of baffles, give them a bit better go. But yeah, pulled the thing out, so I spent probably half an hour, 40 minutes here cleaning that up. And when I had this out, I separated the glass and gave them a decent clean in between as well, so that made it even clearer to look through. But there's actually we're actually going to get a car show this year. Well, I wouldn't say it's summer because it's going to be autumn, because summer runs out in the next week, I think. It's the official end of summer here. The 1st of April, I think, is the end. So yeah, we've only got a few days really of what's left of summer here. It's starting to cool off in the mornings. At nights, you know, we still get the odd day where it's quite hot and it stays a bit hot overnight, but most of them are fairly cool in the morning now, well, for here anyway. So by the end of April, the weather's still reasonable, it's still pretty good. It can be quite nice during the day. So there's a car show coming up called Hard Park. Now it's evolved around the tuner scene. They had one here last year. I think they've had a few up in North Island over maybe the last few years, I don't really know exactly. But because the one down here the year before was in an industrial yard, and it was a bit cramped, and they couldn't get a lot of vehicles in there. And because it's the only car show that's successfully going to be down here this year, because now we've got no frickin' restrictions, because of old Auntie Horsehead Jacinta, which is well, trying to be Prime Minister. She's a bit like that frickin' idiot in Canada, just a dickhead. But yeah, because now all the restrictions are pretty much gone, this one will happen. So yeah, because last year it was in an industrial, it was very restricted, and there wasn't a lot of muscle cars or hot rods or anything in amongst it. There was the odd one, you know, to draw a bit of help draw a few of the older generation there instead of the younger, well, I wouldn't say younger guys, but more of the guys that are into the imports and the tuners and Euros type stuff, into that car show, because that was mainly what it was. But so I'm hoping this year, because it's at the local showgrounds for horse racing, and they've got quite a good grass area inside near the track, and they've got quite a good parking area outside of the track, to get a lot of people in there. So hopefully this year it'll be quite a good show, and because it's the only one down here, I'm hoping they'll get really good numbers of cars. They might have had 100 at their last one because it was very restricted, so I'm hoping it's way more than that. I'm hoping they'll get 300 or 400 cars in there, and we'll get a good variety of stuff. So because I know, look, as much as I love walking around and looking at the stuff, I know the video, if I post it on social media through a lot of the car clubs down here, like on Facebook, and just go through all the car clubs, and we keep an eye out, and hopefully, if Rachel's still here, I'll get her to write down some of the clubs that are there, that's present, because a lot of them have these stickers on their cars and shit, like on the corner of the windscreen or whatever. Or they might have an advertisement say, oh, this is a group of guys, you know, from the Chevy Club or the Ford Club or whatever, the Rice's Club. But you know what I mean. So yeah, if I post it on all their pages, your views go through the roof, and it makes a hell of a difference. So if these guys, especially if there's local car shows and you go there, try and get as much footage as you can. Walk around and get a good amount of footage of some of the cars that are around. I know it's not always easy, but if you can, do it. If you can get 20 or 30 minutes of footage, and you can just bang it all together, maybe have a little bit of talking and throw a little bit of music over top, down quiet, you know, and then just drop the noise level of the normal video, you know, it's amazing the amount of views you can get, because normally my views at the moment, you know, anywhere from sort of 30 to 80, depending on the video. Like with most of the stuff at the Studebaker, if I do a few how-to tips and things like that, or reviews on tools or welders or stuff like that, I'll get it into the couple of hundred or a bit more. Some of them will go quite viral, you know, as in my standard, at my level. But the car show stuff, I think my truck parade one from, it was either 2020 or 2021, might have been 2020, I did the truck parade, and they didn't have it last year, because it's normally the end of the year. So it was the start of this summer, so yeah, they'd never had it. But yeah, the one in 2020, like that's over 6,000 views now, I think. So it would really pump the watch hours up. So that's why the car shows are good. If you can get some decent length footage, you know, 20, 30, 40 minutes, or even an hour, if it's a big car show, and you can get around and walk around most of the cars, it's amazing. If you can get a few thousand people watching that, and they'll watch the whole thing, or a fair chunk of it, your watch hours just go pfft. So I'm quite glad this show is coming up. I'm hoping it's good, hoping there's a good number of cars, hoping there's a good mix, and I'll try and video everything I can, and yeah, hopefully that'll pump my numbers up, and I'm hopefully grab a few extra subs to bump me over that 1,000, and I'm hoping maybe the numbers of the viewers will get me up over that threshold again, because it's dropping and dropping and dropping because I haven't had the car shows. It makes a hell of a difference, because even the smaller ones are still up near that, close to that 1,000 views, you know, 800, 900,000 views, but I think there's 3 or 4 that are in excess of, you know, 1,500 to 3,000 or 4,000 views. You know, there's quite a few that are in that range, you know, and the rest of them are up near that 1,000. So like, you get that many people watching a 30 or 40 minute video, it makes a hell of a difference. So it's kind of, I'm really hoping that this car show's good, and good numbers of cars, and the day's good and all that sorts of things. But anyway, I'm going to get in working on this stuff. So yeah, that car show, look out for it. It'll be Hard Park 2022. And I just hope it's good this year. Or a better feel for me anyway. It was a little bit, I wouldn't say it was lackluster, but it was just a bit, because it was small and restricted, it was just, didn't really do, you know, it was sort of one of those things you walk around in 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and away you go again, instead of wandering around there for 2 or 3 hours, you know, and talking to all your mates and whatever, you know, and really having a good poke around. You know, it was a bit average, sort of one of those 10, 15 minute, 20 minute walk rounds. Oh yeah, I've seen it all now, and bugger off. There was nothing else there, you know. I think there was a coffee vendor and a food vendor and nothing, you know. Wasn't anybody selling anything. There was no, you go to a lot of big ones and the people were selling toys and hats and, you know, second-hand parts and, you know, all sorts of just other stuff, you know, and it makes it interesting. You can have a good poke around and look at stuff and whatever, but there was none of that. Whereas hopefully this year, if it's in a decent place, they might get a few vendors, because I bet you the vendors are itching to get down, to get their feelers out too, you know, like the car part stuff, you know, like the guys that sell all the parts for the older stuff. I bet you they're itching to get down here for that too, because a lot of them would have been booked in to go to those other ones, but never happened. So yeah, it should be good, I hope. Anyway, we'll get doing some work here. Right, so I've started sanding these pieces, and they're actually not too bad. This is obviously very good. That one's not as bad as what I thought it might have been. It's actually reasonably flat. It's got a few little marks that I might have to put a little bit of stuff on, but I'd probably actually get the worst of them with another couple of coats of primer. I haven't sanded them around here, but that surface is actually pretty good. Like, it's a little roughy down here yet, I haven't done that, but yeah, not going to see it really. But it's, apart from a couple of little marks down there, the rest of it is actually pretty good. It's actually better than I thought it might have been. These are going to need some work. I'm going to have to, well, that's actually the pre-made one. But these ones here are a bit lumpy, but again, I think a little bit of glazing putty and another couple of coats. They won't be too bad. So yeah, I haven't sanded any of the other stuff yet. So I'll get that done, and yeah, then mix up some glazing putty and spread on the worst ones, in the worst spots. I think I'll just put a little bit in the end of that, and those three. That's pretty much fine. You know, rub it around the back and whatever, and it'll be ready for the next step ready, unless I happen to rub through somewhere. But yeah, we'll get these other ones done too. Give all these a rub back and see how we get on. It's a loose wall. It's actually loose on the base. Right. We'll give these a bit of a rub and see how we get on here. They're not really as bad as I thought they were. Hopefully you can see here. Turn around this way. But you can see the, hopefully you can. Light's not very good, is it? It's too dark today. But you can see the odd dark spot where I haven't hit. But it's not really that bad, you know. A decent rub back and just put a little bit of glazing putty in some of the bad spots, and another couple of coats and just smooth it out, and they'll be fine. Actually not as bad as I thought they might have been. Like these old ones, you know, a bit ripply, but it's not that. Like the majority of it's sanded off pretty good. It's just a few marks, you know. That's still not going to take a lot to fill. You know, and then another couple of coats over top and just rub it out. Just by hand without a block, and just smooth it, and it will be, I think they'll be fine. So that's cool. I thought they might have been a bit rougher, but they're not as tragic as I thought they might have been. When I seen them, they were, you know, when they were shiny, or got that sheen on them, that they might have been a bit rough. But they're not as bad. Once I run a block over, they're not as bad as I thought they might have been. So again, thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and hit that bell, and we'll see you in the next video.